He's already, yes, he's already, because he was earlier.
We changed it. We changed the schedule. Should I?
Yes, yes.
Picture? Sorry.
Yashodanandana Jaya Brajajanaranjana Yashodanandana Jaya Brajajanaranjana Jamunatiravanachari Jaya Kunja Vihari Jaya Kunja Vihari Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajaka Acharya Stotara Sat Shri Srimad Abhay Charanaravindra Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaja Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Shri Veda Shastra Ki Jai Srimad Bhagavatam Mahapurana Ki Jai Nitai Gaur Pramanande Hari Hari Bol. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So today we will be reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 11, Chapter number 2, text number 44. So, who likes reading in English? Because I know some of you maybe prefer French or Dutch, but who is very comfortable reading in English? Anybody would like? You? If you like, I don't know how far the mic goes. Sorry?
Okay.
Prabhu, you can just read the... I will do the Sanskrit, then you can read, okay? Sanskrit is on the board. Please repeat. Sirajo Vacha Atha Bhagavatam Bruta Yad Dharmo Yadrisho Nrinam Yatha Charanti Yad Brute Ye Linger Bhagavat Priya Sirajo Vacha Atha Bhagavatam Bruta Yad Dharmo Yadrisho Nrinam Yatha Charanti Yad Brute Ye Linger Bhagavat Priya. Anyone wants to repeat, please?
Shirajo Vacha Atta Bhagavatam Bhuta Yadharmo Yadrisolinam Yatacharati Yadbrute Yailingar Bhagavat Priya
Shirajo Vacha Atha Bhagavatam Bruta Yadharmo Yadrisho Nrinam Yata Charati Yadbrute Yailinga Bhagavat Priya.
Sri Raja Vacha Atha Bhagavatam Bruta Yadharmo Yadrisho Nrinam Yata Charati Yadbrute Yerlinger Bhagavat Priya.
So we'll do the synonyms. Sirajuvacha. The king spoke.
The king spoke.
Atha.
Atha.
Next.
Next.
Bhagavatam.
Bhagavatam.
About the personality of Godhead.
About the personality of God.
Bruta. Please tell me.
Please tell me.
Yat dharmaha.
Yat dharmaha.
Having what duties?
Having what duties?
Yadrishaha.
Yadrishaha.
Having what nature?
Having what nature?
Nrinam.
Nrinam.
Among men.
Among men.
Yatha.
Yatha.
How?
How?
Acharati.
Acharati.
He behaves.
Behaves.
Yat. What?
What?
Brute.
Brute.
He speaks.
He speaks.
Yaihi. By which? Lingaihi.
Lingaihi.
Visible symptoms.
Visible symptoms.
Bhagavat Priyaha.
Bhagavat Priyaha.
One dear to the Supreme Lord.
One dear to the Supreme Lord.
Please, Yashamati Pro, you can read.
Translation by the language is Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada.
Jai.
Maharaj Nimi said, "Now please tell me, in greater detail about the devotees of the Supreme Lord, what are the natural symptoms by which I can distinguish between the most advanced devotees, those on the middle level, and those who are neophytes? What are the typical religious activities of a Vaishnava, and how does he speak? Specifically, please describe those symptoms and characteristics by which Vaishnavas become dear to the Supreme Personality of Godhead." Purport. The great sage Kavi has informed King Nimi about the general external symptoms of a devotee of the Lord, namely his appearance, personal qualities and activities. But now King Nimi asks how to make further distinctions among the servants of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, so that the first class, second class, and lower class Vaishnavas can be clearly identified. According to Srila Rupa Goswami, Krishneti yasya giritam manastriyeta. One should mentally honor any devotee who chants the holy name of Lord Krishna, Upadeshamrita 5. Any living entity who is faithfully chanting the holy name of Krishna is to be considered a Vaishnava, and at least within the mind is to be offered respect. But for practical advancement in Krishna consciousness, one should associate at least with a second-class devotee. And if one can receive the mercy of a first-class devotee of the Lord, one's perfection is very easily guaranteed. Thus Nimi Maharaj is humbly inquiring, what are the character, behavior, and speech of devotees? The king wants to know the particular symptoms of the body, mind, and speech by which the different categories Uttama Adhikari, Madhyama Adhikari, and Kanishta Adhikari are clearly identified. In response to king's inquiry, another of the Nava-Yogendras, namely Havya, will give a further elaboration of the science of Krishna consciousness.
Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshthaya Vidare Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Dvaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So thank you very much, everybody. So this particular verse is a continuation of this second chapter in which Narada Muni is speaking to Vasudeva and recounting the discussion about Bhagavata Dharma with the 9 Yogindras, Nava Yogindras. So here Maharaj Nimi is asking to Sri Havi, one of the different 9 Yogindras, about the importance of spiritual life, about the importance of levels of devotees and the nature of dharma in relationship to the devotee. So the path is called Bhagavata Dharma, and the devotee is also a type of Bhagavat as well, because it's related to Bhagavan. Bhagavan means the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So as we know, there are different ways in which this form of God is described. Sometimes it's described, there's different lists given. Generally we hear about 6 qualities of Bhagavan, that Aishwaryasya Samagrasya Viryasya Yashashastriya Jnana Vairagyayos Sanam Bhagati Itingana. So there are 6. Generally this is the main way which we describe Bhagavan, that he is full of 6 important qualities, full of all opulence, strength, Viryasya, Yasha, fame. Sometimes Srila Prabhupada translates fame as influence as well. So when I was a child, I used to observe it at school. There are 2 types of people in the school. So I went to a boys' school. First we went to Gurukula at the Bhaktivedanta manner, and then we went to a regular Western school, British style school. So I observed there's always 2 types. There is the leader and the led, or the misleader and the misled, right? So there are some of the boys in the school who are more influential, and then other people would have a submissive attitude to them out of fear of being rejected or being bullied or being insulted by various imaginative ways of disrespecting different people in your family or disrespecting you in different ways. So this is how children at school often are, especially boys. So sometimes there would be fights at school, sometimes there will be arguments, but generally might makes right. So whoever has the most power, then they have more influence, right? So then they become known. Wow, this is a very cool guy. There's some kind of subtle social hierarchy. So influence, I notice, is a very powerful quality, or fame, yasha, because as the Bhagavad Gita explains, that yad yad acharati shreshtas tat tat evetaro janaha, that whatever the influential person does, then the influenced people, they tend to follow, right? Ita means to go, itaro jana, the people go, they literally follow them. So therefore the Srimad Bhagavatam warns that anda yata andher upaniyamana, just like when somebody is blind and blind people are following the blind leader, then where do they end up, Radhesham? Do they end up at the shopping mall? Huh? Yeah, they do. But in the Bhagavatam, what's the example given? They're ending up in the ditch. So when you're on the road, on the path, generally there's a ditch. Just like Belgium was a Roman, part of the Roman Empire, right? The Romans were very famous for building nice roads. Just next to Bhaktivedanta Manor, there is a very long, famous road called, I think, Watling Street or something. And it's very famous in the UK because it's extremely long. Even if you drive, it's like 1 hour drive and it's perfectly straight. And even in Europe, generally the roads are not very straight, right? They're always windy because the villages and the roads and the buildings are very old. But this road is very straight, and the Romans were very famous because their roads had a slight incline at the top and then to the side, and then there was a ditch, so the rain would always flow away, so the road would not get destroyed. But unfortunately, if you're following a blind person, he may lead you off the road and you fall into the ditch and break your knee. So this is the nature. Therefore, yasha is a very important quality as well. Aishwaryasya, Samagrasya, Virya, Yasha, and Shriya, beauty, Jnana, knowledge. So important quality, attractive quality is knowledge, the ability to be free from ignorance. Jnana, Aishwarya, Samagrasya, Jnana, Shriya. And what's the last one? Vairagyam. Vairagyam means detachment or renunciation. So when one is detached, viraga, without attachment, that's also a very attractive quality, right? Just like you observe in social hierarchies, whenever somebody is insulted or something is taken away by somebody more powerful, if you're detached, then your power goes up, your social power goes up, because the person could not hurt you, the person could not affect you. Or if they say something but you don't care, yeah, no problem, my friend, you're so fat, no problem, I'm overweight, I like it. Okay, then they don't have any insult anymore. You're a very poor man. Yes, I'm poor. What to do? Why do you want to speak to me if I'm poor? Better go speak to someone else. But if it hurts you, then they win. If somebody insults you, right? So these qualities are very important. So detachment as well. So we can see Krishna himself is very detached. Just in this particular verse, the word is used here. Please tell me in greater detail about Bhagavatam. But Bhagavatam means, generally refers to Bhagavan, right? But in Krishna, the same pronouns which Krishna has for himself, he shares with his devotees. Just like we call everyone Prabhu, right? Generally, Prabhu is used for God. It's not used for us. Prabhu means one who has power, one which is a master, right? Or we use the word Shri. Shri is also referring specifically to divinity. Or the word Narada is often referred to as Bhagavan, who is the one who introduces this chapter, right? Bhagavan Narada we see many times. Or Ishvara. So many of these words which are used for God, Krishna is very detached, no problem. My devotee is equal to me, no problem. Even though, objectively speaking, nobody is superior than God, right? And there's nobody higher than him, and there's nobody equal to him. What's our verse? Natasya sama cha abhyadi kasya drishyate. We cannot perceive of anyone who is samaha, equal, or abhyadika, is superior in qualification to God. Yet God is no problem. He's very detached. He is a pure devotee. He is my pure devotee. He is the same as me. I am not superior to him. So this is the nature of God. So these 6 qualities are there, and this is what defines Bhagavan. But here the word is also being used to describe the devotee. So we hear in Chaitanya Charitamrita, this is in Madhya Leela 22, chapter 22, that Bhagavata Shabde Dui Bhagavat Hai, Grantha Bhagavat Ar, Bhakta Bhagavat Hoy. There is 2 types of Bhagavatas, which is described in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. This is Lord Chaitanya's teachings, that there are 2 things, there are 2 concepts which are very worshipable. One is the book Bhagavat, and one is the person Bhagavat. So these are both considered Bhagavats. Sometimes we describe Bara Bhagavat and Bhakti Rasa Patra. So these are the 2 ways in which we can understand Bhagavan, is through the devotee and through the scripture, which glorifies the devotee, through the words of God and the words of his pure devotees. So Maharaj Nimi here is asking a very important question, very pertinent question. This is a very famous conversation. It appears in other Vedic texts also, the Maharaj Nimi with Navayogendras. And here it's very famous. Why? Because the most important questions are being asked. Generally, it is said that intelligent people ask intelligent questions, right? But the foolish people, they never ask the correct questions. They always ask foolish questions, right? So therefore, in this the same story, it's described that one who is very advanced, they no need to ask so many questions. Always asking questions like yapping. In English, there is the word yapping, right? So sometimes you're with somebody, they just ask unlimited questions all the time. It's like, you don't need to ask so many questions. We were discussing actually with Radhadesh yesterday, you remember, in the car? So he did a lot of books yesterday in Luxembourg. So please give him a lot of blessings. And a lot of people were very interested. And we gave all of them the Radhadesh flyers as well. So maybe somebody will visit. So we were discussing with Radhadesh that there's 2 types of question. One is questions which is on the mental platform, like always. The nature of the mind is always accepting and rejecting. I like this, I dislike this, right? The nature of the mind. Chasing pleasure and avoiding pain. So questions are often relating to superficial things, or they're not very useful questions. But the nature of the yogi is they're very silent. They don't need to ask too many questions. Why? Because internally they have peace. Internally they are satisfied. So although for executional devotional service they may ask questions, they do not have this tendency to ask so many things about the world, about other people, about the latest gossip down the road, etc. They only want to know something related to Bhagavan, otherwise they are silent. They do not have many questions to ask. Radha Gopinath ki jai. So this is the nature. So here is explaining what are the symptoms by which I can distinguish between the most advanced devotees on the most advanced, middle and neophyte platform. What are the typical religious activities of a Vaishnava and how does he speak? Specifically, please describe those symptoms and characteristics by which Vaishnavas become dear to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So actually, this is a very similar question that somebody asked in another text. Can anyone think? It's one of the most obvious ones. The question which Maharaj Nimi is asking to the Navayogendras, that please describe the 3 levels of devotees, that is not there in that text, but then he's asking, what are the activities, what does he speak, and what are his symptoms? That's asked by somebody else to the Lord in another text. Arjuna, right? He says the same thing. So Arjuna in the beginning of the Gita is also asking Krishna the same thing, that how does he speak, how does he walk, characteristics, etc. Why? Because the Vedic system is that Guru or Acharya or the pure devotee is not simply a lofty concept, a concept which one cannot conceive of. Generally we talk about things which are inconceivable, right? But Krishna gives a methodology of understanding how to perceive through characteristics an advanced devotee. Therefore we do not become the blind following the blind. This is very important, right? Just like yesterday, I don't know if it was with you, but I was discussing with somebody. There is one very famous guru now in Europe. He's based in Germany. So he has many disciples. He actually, in some countries, is bigger than ISKCON, although they look very similar to ISKCON. And a few of my friends actually left ISKCON to join that movement. But unfortunately, directly on the website, it says that he is in the Vishnu Tattva category. So they're thinking that they don't have the same tilak, but they dress the same, they copy many things which Prabhupada did. And I said to them that, why are you following this guy? He's claiming to be God, although there are many abuse allegations against him and many theft allegations against him, and he's kind of a sect, cult leader. So they said, God is everywhere, no problem. So then I said, what can I say? So therefore, we have to be very philosophical when understanding the pure devotee. Because if we misunderstand a conditioned soul or a Kamsa avatar or some other demon in the form of a devotee, then it's very dangerous. Because Krishna puts the pure devotee, as we have established earlier in the class, on the same level as himself. He shares the same words which are used to glorify him. He's very happily that I will also allow my devotees to be called the same thing. And then in this same book, in this same number 11, Canto 11, then he also describes that Acharya Mam Vijaniyat, that the Acharya is to be taken as Mam. What does Mam mean? Any big Sanskrit scholars here? What does Mam mean, apart from Vrinda, obviously? Mam means me, right? It's very obvious. That's why in English it's moi, in French it's moi, in Spanish me, Hindi me also, or mujhe. So this Mam word is very important because Krishna is saying that the Acharya is to be known to be the same as me, equal to me. Not equal in tattva, in ontology, but equal in importance, equal in worthiness of respect, equal in the ability to teach and to instruct people. Therefore he says, Acharya Mam Vijanyat na avamanyeta karichid. One should not condescend. Literally, Krishna is in one sense using the word condescend. In modern English, condescend means to treat someone lower. Like, originally condescension was when you had great kings and they had a way of dealing with the subjects in a very graceful, kingly, princely, queenly way. But now condescending means being patronizing, right? Or being treating someone inferior. So the same thing, ava manyeta. Ava means down, so looking down on them. So one should only, in other words, look up to a guru, not look down, relativize the position of guru, relativize a guru, etc. Avamaneta karhichit namartya buddha asuyeta. One should not envy the Acharya to be mortal, like the word mart. So martya buddha, not to have the mindset, not to misuse your intelligence to see the Guru as a conditioned soul, because that's an offense. Conditioned soul means controlled by the modes of material nature. Sarva Deva Mayo Guruhu. So there's 33 koti demigods, 33 types, or sometimes 33 million. So all of them, they're equal to one person. If you add all of them together, they're equal to one person, which is the Guru, the Acharya. So Krishna uses these two words in this verse, Guru and Acharya. So Acharya means, the A prefix means intensify or specialization. So it's one whose activities are very special, somebody who's a transcendental soul. So this is the same thing which Nimi is asking. Krishna is also describing the answer to that, because if we go into the answer in these verses, then there will be a spoiler. So the Acharya is very important, and as Nimi says here, what are the typical activities, speech and symptoms? The word for symptom used here is linga. So linga means things which you can observe. So in other words, empirical. So Guru is not just some feeling. Oh, I feel something, therefore he's Guru. There should be some practical, observational ways to understand the Guru. So therefore, this is also established in another text about the meaning of this word, Acharya. Here it's saying acharati, the behavior, right? So specialized behavior, distinguished behavior. So one who has distinguished behavior is called Acharya. Why? Is his behavior special? Because his behavior is outside of the three modes of material nature. So one who acts in this world, he is simply moving. But one who is acting beyond the modes, he's acting on another platform. So therefore, he's acting on the spiritual platform. So Acharya means Achinoti Yashastrartham. Acharya Stapayatyapi Swayam. Acharate Yasmat Acharya Stena Kirtita. There are three primary symptoms of one who is known as Acharya. These are all observable. None of them are just feel something, just see something, see a smile, see a long beard. Some have a birthright. Sometimes Guru is taken because of an ethnic lineage, right? So although in Vedic culture, there was often lineages with some ethnic external line, the qualification was not the bloodline. The qualification was the qualities. And generally, if you have a great Vaishnava family, then your likelihood of becoming a great Vaishnava is much, much higher than if you're not. So therefore, you're more likely to become a qualified Guru if you're born in a family. So therefore, lineage, especially formally, now in Kali Yuga, everything is mixed up. It was often that the great king had a great son who also became a great pure devotee leader. But it's not guaranteed. Just like Dasharatha had a beautiful son, Lord Ram. So we see many, many examples in the Bhagavatam. But ultimately, it's the qualities which are important. So Krishna is establishing that, and Maharaj Nimi is asking for that as well, because he knows that there are some qualifications. So the first one is that the Acharya is very, very well established in the scriptures. Shastartham. Not only very established in the scriptures, but knows the essential meaning of the scriptures. It's not that one is a great scholar. Knowledge actually in the process of bhakti is just an upalamba, is a support for your devotional service, but it's not the goal. In Jnana Marga, the goal is liberation through knowledge. It's the yoga of knowledge. But bhakti yoga means the goal is you use knowledge and you detach from matter to attach to Krishna. So the goal is attachment to Krishna, not becoming very big intellectual. So therefore, the qualification of the Acharya is he's very expert in Shastra, but he's also understanding the most important point of Shastra, which is Dharma, which is Bhagavata Dharma, the ultimate duty of the soul to the Lord. So therefore, this is the first principle. Otherwise, we see many, many leaders, they are big brahmanas, they know many mantras and tantras, but they are not qualified. So therefore there is one verse which explains this, that Sat Karma Nipuno Vipra. Sat Karma, they're generally those who are Brahmanas, they are qualified in 6 different activities, right? There's different lists, but generally it's called Patan, Yajan, Dan, Pratigraha, which means expert in studying and teaching. So this is the 2 primary activities of Brahmana. Then the next 2, Patan, Yajan, performing Yagya and teaching others, engaging others in Yagya. And Dan and Pratigraha. Dan, Pratigraha means, Dan is like donner en français. What does it mean, donner? Oh, well, you don't speak French. Huh? To give, right? In Spanish, yo doy, or dan también. And in English, donate, D-O-N. So this is all from Latin. Latin is a great-great-grandchild of Sanskrit. And then Pratigraha. Graha means to grasp. Like English word grasp come from graha. Prati means counter. So in other words, to release. So in other words, to donate to others. So receiving donations and giving donations. So if you only take, but you don't give, you're also not Brahmana. So Brahmana also donates. Just like I used to travel with His Holiness Mahavishnu Maharaj. So he is very simple Maharaj, very little bank balance, very little, he always buys second-hand phones. Although he's a big guru, he goes to Nepal, he says, buy me just simple Samsung. So he almost never bought, I was traveling with him 7 years, he never bought a new phone. He always gets his disciples, because in Nepal phones are cheaper also. Because Asia has like Samsung J series, like cheaper version. So he always used to get the next J series, but second hand. And so I was involved in his many of his services for him, including financial thing. So I saw how Maharaj never keeps any Lakshmi. As soon as he gets Lakshmi, he says, send this one to my dear disciple in Congo. Send this one to Nepal for Patri Prabhu. Send this one here. You know Patri Prabhu? Yeah. So he had one very high-level disciple called Balnitai in the DR Congo. So many places in Africa he used to send money. As soon as he gets a big donation, he immediately gets rid of it in a good way. So these are the 6 qualifications of the Brahmanas. So yesterday we were distributing books with Radhadesh. So once we were giving a seminar on book distribution. And during the seminar I had the realization that in Kali Yuga the perfect Brahminical activity is actually book distribution. Because if you think about it very carefully, only through book distribution can you get all of these 6 activities in one go. There's no other activity. Through book distribution, you automatically have to study the books, because otherwise how can you distribute them, right? So inherent in book distribution is patan and patan. You're studying the books and you're also distributing the knowledge. So you're already doing the first 2. Then yajan, the Yuga Dharma is the glorification congregationally of the Lord. So Srimad Bhagavatam is teaching the congregational chanting and is also a congregational glorification of the Lord with all of the sages of Naimisharanya, right? And then we are also part of that lila because we are distributing that knowledge. So therefore yajan and yajan is also consolidated. So if we distribute prasadam, are we studying the books? In one sense, if you eat Anna Brahma, you get some knowledge. But on the external level, even prasad distribution is not as powerful as book distribution in this sense. Although all service is one, as Krishna establishes that in the Gita, but book distribution is very special because it's very directly teaching and studying the scripture, performing the congregational glorification of the Lord and engaging others. And when you distribute books, you're also giving something, right? And you're also receiving something. So that's also the Brahmana's duty, is to receive. It's not the Brahmana's, what do you call, oh, you're so lucky, dear Brahmana, I'm giving you money. No, it's their duty to receive. And they're also receiving something. So somebody receives a book and they give Lakshmi. So therefore these last 2 items are also consolidated. So this is the beauty of book distribution. Just by doing that, you're the perfect Brahmana. Therefore Srila Prabhupada, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, the 6 Goswamis, they emphasized this program. So Satkarma Nipuno Vipra. Vipra means a type of junior Brahmana, one who is Veda Patnat Bhaved Vipra, one who is studying the scriptures. If you remember the first of the 6 items to study, he is a Vipra. So you may be a very big scholar. Satkarma Vipra, Mantra Tantra, you may be expert in mantra and tantra, but if you're not a Vaishnava Guru Nasyat, Vaishnava Swapacho Guru. If you're not a Vaishnava, you're not considered to be a Brahmana or a Guru. But if you're even born in a dog-eating family, anyone from dog-eating family? Your family used to eat, eh? Sometime in Europe they eat. It's more in China, I think. Huh? Not dog, huh? But actually in the West they eat cow, which is worse, actually. So, well, actually even in India now, unfortunately, happens. So, you are considered to be a great Vaishnava. If you're born in a dog-eating family, but you have Bhakti Vaishnava, then you're considered to be Guru. Therefore, Srila Prabhupada's disciples, externally they were born in a dog-eating, cow-eating family, but because they are pure Vaishnavas, they are taken as Guru, and not big Vedic scholars in India who don't follow any qualities. So what time finish? I don't know the time. Huh? What's the time? 8:36. So therefore, this is a very important point, that the qualification is established by the qualities. So therefore, Achinoti ya Shastrartham. First qualification of the Acharya or the Guru is, he is very expert in the scriptures and the essential import of the scriptures, right? And then Acharya Stapayatyapi. Then he is also very qualified in establishing the teachings of the scriptures and preaching this knowledge around the world. So not only is a Guru is one who is very expert in the scripture, he is very expert in practicing and establishing the scripture as well. Stapanam means to establish. And Swayam Acharate. Swayam means his personal behavior. Like in French you say su, for the second person. How is it in French? Tu. And then for you, toi. So this su is also there in Latin. Like in Spanish is su. Su means theirs or his or hers. And in Portuguese also. Is there in French, but I don't know where. So this su is there. So swayam. Swayam means the self. So his personal practice is also exemplary. So his knowledge of scripture is incomparable. Therefore later we will hear how the qualification of the topmost devotee is. He is very expert. Nobody can defeat him in establishing the scriptures. Therefore, when we look at the life of Sri Madhvacharya, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, Baladev Vidyabhushan Prabhu, because of him we became authorized in the Vedanta tradition. Because of his Srimad Vedanta Sutra explanation. And Srila Prabhupada himself was a great debater. Once he was in Sweden, so our dear Radhadesh was in Sweden distributing books for a long time, almost 1 year, yeah? Something 7-8 months. Something. So he was there for some good amount of time distributing books. So there is the society, was it there? Mensa Society, was in Sweden? Actually, I don't remember. Huh? Stockholm, yeah? So anyway, he went to this society, I think it was called Mensa Society, which is only for how many IQ? There's some number, I don't know the number. Very high, it's only for people who are qualified beyond a certain level of IQ. So Srila Prabhupada went to that place and he debated them and he defeated them. Although externally Srila Prabhupada is not like, although he actually went to a good college, Scottish Churches College, and he had a good education, he was a STEM, he studied the STEM degrees. Nowadays, if you want to get a good job, you have to study STEM, right? Science, technology, engineering, mathematics. So he was studying biology and chemistry, so he was actually a good scientist in the pharmacy business. So although he was intelligent materially, they didn't think he was as good as them, because materially they were very famous thinkers. And he came and very simply he defeated their nonsense. And then once he was in the university in Stockholm itself, and then they thought, the socialists thought, we'll capture Srila Prabhupada in a debate. Because in socialism, there is a concept that there should be no type of hierarchy in the social sphere. Everyone is equal. So in one sense, it's good, right? But the problem is, it's done artificially. It's not done through purification and spirituality. So therefore, we see generally socialism becomes corrupt, and it always does. So same with all types of material governments. So Srila Prabhupada went to the university and he was establishing anti-socialism in one sense. He was establishing some kind of hierarchy, that first you have the Brahmanas, then you have the Kshatriyas, then you have the Vaishyas, then you have the Shudras. So they were very offended by this, because generally communism basically, or socialism, which are kind of similar, so they are both emphasizing the power of the Shudra, right? That's how communism came about. So I heard recently, I forget whose class it was, maybe Vrinda remembers, he was giving a class, it's actually not a class, it was a podcast with Namras Prabhu, and he was establishing how there are 4 political concepts which align to the 4 varnas. So socialism or communism is there to support the Shudra community, right? Because communism means that everyone has equal pay. Why? Because Shudras are not so qualified in business to become rich. So in South America, there's a lot of corrupt governments, and people are not very expert in how to make money. But then the Gujaratis and Sindhis come and they're all millionaires. So does it mean there's no money in South America? Or it means they don't have the quality to extract the money. I'm just going to Panama on the 4th of May. So there, all the Indians are very, very rich, because they come from these mercantile communities. So one devotee, he imports, shipping containers worth of watches, Chinese watches, and he sells them all over South America. Very, very wealthy devotee, and he's also ISKCON leader there. And there we met many, many millionaires there. But generally in Central America, South America, everyone is lamenting, no money, they don't pay enough, struggling. But actually, if you are a Vaishya, any country you're in, you can become rich. Even the DR Congo. They say, there's no money in DR Congo. If you're intelligent, you can just sell water bottles. If you sell enough, you'll become rich. It's not very hard, right? If you just sell 200 water bottles for $1, you earn more than doctors in the country in one day. So the Shudra people, because most of us now in Kali Yuga, actually we're Shudras. We're born Shudra at least. So Shudra generally means we're not strong enough to conquer and earn money. So therefore we have to be employed by someone, and therefore we get security. So therefore communism and socialism, or social democracies, even mixed economies, they're generally supporting the Shudra community, right? So but the problem is, then they don't want to work. So in the UK, I don't know, in this country, there are many people, they just say, oh, I'm sick, and then they receive money and everything free, but they don't work. So it's imperfect system, right? And then later the government stops giving these benefits because people are abusing the system. And then, so those who are more in power, who are more in a Vaishya mentality, they prefer capitalism, right? Yeah. So generally we say in Western Europe, and like Singapore, Japan, Korea, Australasia, different countries, everyone is first world, like equal quality of life, right? But generally they're mixed economies. So it's a mix of some capitalistic style and some social economy style. But in the US, it's very capitalistic, right? Tadvavid Prabhu? It's more. So in the US, any job you do in Europe, you will earn sometimes double there. My sister was working in the UK, she went to America, she earned triple. So that's because it's capitalist system. But then everything is so expensive. So Mahavishnu Maharaj, he has malaria because he preaches in Africa. So sometimes malaria can come out in the body. So once he had a malaria relapse, if that's what you call it, I don't know. And they charged him for 2 nights in the hospital, $4,000. So this is capitalist. Capitalist means, I know how to exploit others for money, so I become rich and others exploit me. So the Vaishyas, they're more into capitalist system, which is also imperfect. Then the Kshatriyas, they prefer which system? The monarchy, right? or at least some type of more powerful leader, single leader. And then Brahmanas, they prefer decentralized and simplified governmental style. In other words, something more akin to anarchy. Anarchy generally has a negative connotation, right? Anarchy means chaos. Anarchy just means anarchos, no structure. So anarchy actually is completely fine system if you have small villages, small households, if everyone behaves, right? You don't need a police force if everyone is dharmic, right? Because who do you need to arrest? You don't need to have social security if everyone is kind. Because all people who earn money, especially Vaishyas and Kshatriyas, they're supposed to give in charity a lot of money. But because nowadays no one does, there's a lot of poor people, isn't it? So all of these issues which you have in society is just because there's no dharma. But because in Satya Yuga, for example, everyone was dharmic, therefore there was no need of a complex governmental system because everyone behaved nicely. So these four systems, they exist in the world. So when we understand these four systems, then we see why the Brahmana is so important, because the Brahmana is the one who purifies the whole social system, the whole social hierarchy. So therefore the activities of the Brahmana, they consider to be so important. So therefore these are the three principles of how a Brahmana or a Brahmana or a Guru or an Acharya, they act in this world. They have these three things. So Swayam Acharate Yasmat. The third qualification of Acharya is that through his personal behavior, he is exemplifying. So these three are all observable, especially if you're born in Vedic culture. If you're not, then it takes much longer. But especially if you're not born, but if you're trained in Vedic culture, then you can study the symptoms of a guru. Just like if an ISKCON devotee goes to India and they say, this is Shri Shri somebody. And then immediately we ask first question, what is their philosophy? And then we hear their philosophy, oh, this is wrong, this is against what Krishna says, this is also against, this is also against, therefore they're not a guru. Disqualified. And then you see another one, they say, oh, this is another guru. What do they teach? They teach that you should take drugs to get enlightenment. So therefore you understand, no, this is also against the teachings, and this is Swayam Acharate. Or sometimes they don't say it's good to do it, but they don't follow their own instructions, their own teachings. So then they're also breaking the principle of Acharya. So luckily Srila Prabhupada trained us so nicely that it's very difficult to cheat ISKCON devotees, very difficult to cheat Srila Prabhupada's followers. So once I was in South America, and this is a little bit controversial, so I have to be very diplomatic how I say this. So I was in South America, there was one leader in ISKCON who left, and then he started his own movement. He went to another guru, Prabhupada's godbrother, then he started his own movement. So I had never heard of him before. Those of you who have been around since the 80s or 70s, you would know who he is. So he was a very great preacher. He made, actually, when he was in South America, he was about 3 or 4 times bigger than ISKCON. He's also Prabhupada disciple. But when I came there, I'd never heard of him because he's not prominent outside of Spain, in Europe, and Germany. So apart from that, no one really knows him. So I came and then I said, so who is this? There are some devotees in the street, they're distributing books, but they look a little bit different. And their dress style is different, they all have beards. So I said, who are they? They're not from our temple? They said, no, they're a disciple of this guru. And then I said, okay, I never heard of him, but okay. And then they said, but any time he may drop, he may fall from his position. And I was like, how can you say that? It's very offensive, you know. You explained to me he's Prabhupada's disciple. He's also in the Gaudiya family, Gaudiya Sampradaya. So is it not offensive? They said no. And then they gave some empirical reasons why. Because in his behavior, there's X, Y, and Z. So because of this, Prabhupada taught these 3 things are wrong. Because he's not following Prabhupada's instructions. And then a few years later, the whole mission collapsed. Just only in, I won't say the name because it may be live. Just in one of the countries in South America, I personally visited some of those places. They had about 10 farms, about 20 temples, many restaurants, many yoga schools, and within 1 year, everything disappeared. So therefore, we have to follow very strictly Krishna's teachings, Srila Prabhupada's teachings, to avoid these kind of difficulties. Therefore, the Maharaj Nimi is very intelligently asking the precise questions which one needs to ask on the spiritual path. Because we cannot do this path alone. To go back to the spiritual world, there is a great big door, which is guarded by, who guards the door?
Vijay.
Jay and Vijay, right? Yeah. So, but there is one easy way to open that door. And there's one door going up, there's also one door going down. So how do we open the great door? In Sanskrit it's called Dwaram, right? Dwaram. So Mahat Sevam Dwaram Ahu Vimukte. That they say simply by serving the great souls, Mahatmas, the pure devotees, the Bhagavatas, then the door becomes wide open to enter the spiritual world. And not only does one become liberated, Mukte, but Vimukte, one goes beyond liberation and reaches Goloka Vrindavan by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada. So therefore, not only we should study what Maharaj Nimi says, we should strictly follow and listen to how Srila Prabhupada establishes, both by his personal example, by his books and by his preaching, what is the qualification and who to follow. And through that, then we become elevated. Why? Because even how many moments association is enough to save you from the greatest fear? Just one moment is enough. Actually, the word used is nimisha. Nimisha means like when you blink, right? So how many fractions of a second is a blink in Vedic concept of time? I think it's 1/4. 1/11th. So 1/11th. So very, very short moment, just some small association. There is a famous story of Ahindra Prabhu, right? He used to say, I only got one Haribol from Srila Prabhupada. That was my only association. But because of that, I have enough inspiration to chant 6 hours a day. And he used to do a lot of rounds and deity worship in Vrindavan. So there are many examples of Srila Prabhupada's disciples. They maybe didn't get much association, but just one moment is enough to fill you with a spiritual energy. So these are the points which are being established. So therefore he's saying, so there is still 7 minutes. So he's saying that what are the activities, and the word here is used is linga, the visible symptoms. So then we ask, then how do we characterize these great teachers, these great acharyas, these great brahmanas? So therefore that is also described, that the methodology to understand the great soul is not by caste system, is not by birth, is not by blood lineage, is not by fame, is not by charisma, but yasya lal lakshanam proktam. So the similar word is being used here in this verse, that according to one's lakshana, symptoms, pumso varna abhivanjakam. Everyone is categorized according to their symptoms and their behavior. Yasya lal lakshanam proktam pumso varna abhivanjakam yad anyatri drishyeta tad deneva vinidishet. Just according to how they're behaving, even if officially they have a different position, according to their behavior and their qualification, they should be realigned, re-registered under the correct category. So therefore, Srila Prabhupada came to the West and he met many hippies in New York, right? So had the fortune that one of Srila Prabhupada's very senior disciples was staying in our home in London. So we got to ask a lot of questions. But one thing when you ask this Maharaj any questions about, he never gives a direct answer. There's one topic. And the topic is, when I say it, then you may guess who it is. When you ask him, he had a lot of association with Srila Prabhupada, but he never doesn't like to talk much about it. And I heard many recordings, they ask him, can you share some Prabhupada's Leela? But his answer is always the same. Even though he had a lot of association, from I think 1966 or 7 he joined, and generally he says that my main association with Srila Prabhupada is through his books. Even though he had a lot of association. So maybe Tattva Prabhu knows. I'll give another hint, that he says, when I was working on Srila Prabhupada's books, that was my deepest association with Srila Prabhupada. more than the physical association. And if you still don't know, I will go a little bit further. When I was editing Srila Prabhupada's books for the BBT, that is my closest, Jayadvaita Maharaj. So then I understood this very important point, that he refuses to, in general, he refuses to share many Vapu Leelas, because for him, the most important thing is the words of the Guru. And his attachment to Prabhupada's words is so strong that he prefers to emphasize that over telling stories, although the stories are very important as well. But of course, the most important is the instructions. So therefore we hear many times they said, oh, Srila Prabhupada, I don't get much chance to get your association, but you can associate with me through my books, through my instructions. So this is the important thing here. So Maharaj Nimi is also establishing these things, that the symptom of the Guru is also through the teachings and the instructions, repeating the pure message of the Parampara system. So there's still a few minutes. If there's any questions, comments, reflections, or anything else. Thank you.
I just want to review one of the main points because I missed part of the main point. You were giving 3 symptoms of the Acharya, and I wrote down that he is well versed in the scriptures and he's able to practically apply the knowledge by doing Bhagavad Dharma. And then what's a third symptom?
So the first one is Achinoti Ashastratam, that he's very perfect, very expert in the scriptures and also understanding the essential, the artha, the essential point of the scriptures. So expert in scriptures, basically. Expert in scriptures, expert in establishing, often it's explained, debating also, expert in fighting other philosophies, Mayavad philosophy, Sahajya philosophy, so many things, Shunyavad philosophy. So point 1, very well learned, perfectly learned. Point 2, very expert in establishing the scripture. And point 3, he exemplifies it in his behavior. Yeah, these are the 3 points.
What's the last one?
Swayam Acharate, through his personal behavior, he personifies the scriptures. So he personifies the scripture through his behavior, he establishes it without any faltering, without any weakness. And then this is especially Uttama Adhikari, they can do that. And then the first one is very expert in the scriptures. So if you ask Guru a very important question, they say, I don't know. Then what do you do then? You have to go to someone else. So the Guru must be able to, just like Srila Prabhupada, could answer any question perfectly.
I have a question. Do Madranga players damage their watches when they're playing the Madranga?
I don't know the answer to that. Maybe if it's digital, no. I think if it's analog, maybe. Any Madanga players here? He's a Madanga player. Your watch is analog as well, looks like. But I think they're designed to withstand
I was wondering if the watch is damaged.
Radhesham, any reflections? No.
I think it's better to take it off before playing. I forgot to do it.
Regarding the 4 Varnas aligning with political systems, I think one time Shamananda Prabhu was telling me that you can see the Brahminical decline in Europe as well, because years ago, there was the church that was in power, which were the Brahmanas. And then after, when they left the church, he had the Enlightenment period. That's when all the kings, Napoleon and everyone were in power. Then after, you had the French Revolution. So the Kshatriyas were then, they were taken out of their posts. And then the merchants had the power. Then you had the slavery and everything. And then after came the Industrial Revolution and everything else. And then communism happened. So then the Shudras came in power. So you can see as well in European society that Brahminical decline is there as well.
Very lovely point. Thank you very much. This also, he used to come here, one of our ISKCON gurus, Ravindra Swarup Prabhu. So many of you know him. He used to come, right, regularly? So now he's obviously in older age, so I think he doesn't travel so much. But he used to talk about this also in detail, the historical decline of these things. It's very interesting. It's practical, you can observe. So that's why the scriptures are so important, because the scriptures, they teach you the principles to observe and study reality. Not reality, but material reality. So you can actually see the patterns. It's very nice. So I think it's exactly 9 o'clock. So we can end here. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande, Shri Radha Gopinath ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Thank you. Bogodharya. Bogodharya.
I never know. This went so much better. Anarchy, right? You can connect to the problem.
Yeah, because in Satyuga there was prevalent government, there was no government.
I never heard or connected to that because if you hear anarchy is very old, he doesn't like to hear about that because they think that this is a system where you can revolt what you want.